Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that's, well, frankly, it's one of the most pressing and expensive problems facing businesses today.
It really is. We're talking about ransomware.
Exactly. We're going to do a deep dive into the existential threat it poses, just the sheer scale of the cost, and some of the really innovative tech that's emerging for near-instant recovery.
And that's the key part, the recovery.
It is. But let's start with the big picture, because the scale here is just staggering. I mean, ransomware isn't new, right? It's been around for 35 years.
A long time.
But it's now the fastest growing cybercrime on the planet. And the sources we looked at, like cybersecurity ventures, they're projecting that the damage costs, they're set to hit $275 billion annually.
That's by 2031. An incredible number.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We need to unpack what's really behind that colossal figure, understand why this is all accelerating so fast, and, figure out who's most vulnerable.
And then look at how this instant recovery technology is trying to reshape the whole game.
Exactly. Zero-touch recovery.
And that $275 billion figure, it's the perfect place to start because, as you said, it is not just the ransom payment, not even close.
Right.
If you're a CISO or, on the board of a company, you're looking at this whole spectrum of financial damage. It's everything.
So what's included in that number?
Well, the experts who calculate it, they include the fundamental damage to data, stolen money, of course, but also the massive downtime, lost productivity, theft of intellectual property, embezzlement, fraud.
And that's before you even start the cleanup.
Oh, yeah. Then you layer on the forensic investigation, the hit to your reputation, legal costs, maybe even regulatory fines. It all adds up.
That's such an important distinction. People hear ransomware and just think of the payout, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg. A single event can trigger a total operational collapse.
It absolutely can. I think it was Najaf Hussain, the founder of Elastio, who said ransomware is no longer just an IT issue. He called it a boardroom crisis waiting to happen.
And that feels right. For any organization, this is a top-tier concern, no matter how big or small you are.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's dig into this threat a bit more, because the numbers are shocking. But I think the velocity, the speed of it all, is even scarier.
The acceleration is hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. Cybersecurity Ventures predicts a ransomware attack will hit a consumer or a business every 2 seconds by 2031.
Every 2 seconds. You really have to pause on that. That's what, 43,200 attacks every single day?
Wow.
And to give you some perspective on how fast that's changing, back in 2021, the frequency was every 11 seconds.
So a 5-fold increase in velocity in just a decade.
Exactly.
And the money follows that speed.
Yeah.
If you look at the historical data, back in 2015, the annual cost was predicted to be around $325 million.
Which felt like a lot back then.
It did. And now the prediction for 2025 is $57 billion a year.
I mean, if you break that down, that's $156 million per day in damages every single day.
That trajectory, it tells a really clear story, doesn't it? It says that whatever we're doing now for defense, the prevention and the old school recovery methods,
they're not working. Or at least they're not scaling.
They're just not keeping pace. The defenders are running a marathon while the attackers are running a sprint.
That's the perfect analogy. The rate of increase proves that the defensive strategies we're using are just. They're fundamentally failing to keep up, especially as the attackers automate their own processes.
Which brings us to where the pain is felt the most. It's easy to focus on the huge corporations, but our sources were very clear that small to medium-sized businesses, SMBs, are increasingly the main target.
That's a really crucial point. SMBs are just prime targets for all sorts of attacks, malware, denial of service, ransomware. The attackers know they often have weaker defenses.
Less money, fewer resources.
Exactly. Less comprehensive recovery plans than, say, a Fortune 500 company.
And for them, this isn't just about losing some money. The data says it's genuinely existential.
It is. The research indicates that nearly 1 in 5 SMBs
1 in 5.
could be forced to just permanently close their doors after one successful cyber attack. They just don't have the cash or the IT staff to handle weeks of being shut down.
That's terrifying. The financial impact you mentioned, it's over $250,000 on average for an SMB.
Yeah.
But it can go as high as $7 million. Where does a medium-sized company even find $7 million?
They don't. That number comes from all those indirect costs we talked about. It's not the ransom. It's the 2 weeks of lost sales, the legal fees if customer data got out, the cost of rebuilding your entire network. For a small business, that's a death blow.
And they're just falling short on being prepared because they can't afford the big security teams or the fancy architecture.
Right, they try to patch things manually, and you just can't fight an automated attacker with a manual process.
So we've got this dramatic increase in attack velocity and this existential risk for smaller companies. Let's pivot now to the big guys, the enterprises, who do have resources but are still facing what our sources call the recovery gap. We looked at research using the UK as a kind of global benchmark, and this is where it gets really interesting. The UK reported the highest frequency of critical cyber incidents in the world. 93% of organizations there were affected.
So they know the threat is real. They're living it.
They absolutely are. And yet, the data shows this incredible paradox, a real lack of readiness when it comes to actually recovering.
Yeah, that was the surprising part.
They were 21% less likely than their global peers to have a dedicated recovery environment. And even crazier, 11% less likely to have even tested their recovery plans in the last month.
So if you're getting hit that often, why wouldn't you be testing your recovery plan constantly?
That's the question. Why is that happening? Is it money? Or is it just, is recovery too complex to deal with?
It's overwhelmingly the complexity. The threat feels real, but the complexity of their own legacy IT systems makes testing feel like this huge, disruptive, and expensive project that nobody wants to touch.
So they just put it off.
They put it off. And this creates a huge disconnect. The goal is to achieve what's called minimum viability company, or MVC.
Okay, so what is MVC?
It's just the ability to get your core operations back up and running quickly after an attack. And they have the plans on paper. 65% have system inventories, 61% have runbooks. But when the alarm actually goes off, the whole process it collapses under its own weight.
The complexity itself is the enemy. What specifically is holding them back?
Well, the number one reason, from 52% of them, was the complexity of their own IT systems. It's just hard to rebuild a complicated environment quickly. After that, 47% said it was hard to keep recovery plans up to date.
And I saw that 30% admitted they struggle just to figure out what their essential core systems even are.
Right, and all of that is made worse by the attackers getting smarter. They're getting sneakier.
We're past simple data locking now.
Oh, yeah. They're doing things like planting dormant malware inside your backups. Or they'll create ransomware that only activates after you finish your restoration.
So you think you're safe, you restore from backup.
And you've just reinfected your entire system. It's the ultimate bait and switch.
So if the malware is hiding in the clean backups, how does automated recovery even work? I mean, does instant recovery just mean you instantly reinstall the malware? Because that sounds like an absolute nightmare.
That's the critical question, and it's exactly what these modern solutions are designed to solve. Traditional backup and restore is flawed because it assumes the backup is clean. The new systems assume everything might be tainted.
Okay.
The solution has to guarantee a full, secure rebuild from a trusted source, wiping everything on the endpoint, but restoring only the verified user data.
That realization that manual recovery just can't keep up,
Yeah.
that takes us straight to automation. If the threat is automated and fast, the response has to be faster.
And zero touch.
This is where we see this new category of endpoint management tools, like the Swimmage solution in our sources. They're built to automate everything from OS repair to full disaster recovery.
Right. The promise is moving beyond just recovery to actual resilience.
The goal is to enforce the ideal state of that device instantly. CIOs want to cut costs. IT managers want to stop wasting weeks on manual rebuilds.
And what's really interesting is how different these tools are from the legacy imaging that everyone's used to. They're described as fully automated, self-healing, and they can even operate offline.
Let's press on that. What does fully automated and self-healing actually mean for an IT team on the ground?
It means that if a device fails a security check or a user reports a crash, the device can basically start its own recovery sequence. No technician has to touch it. The policy enforces the fix.
And you mentioned the offline capability.
Yes, the offline deployment method. This is huge for remote workforces. It works completely offline, independent of the network, because all the Files OS, drivers, apps are already embedded in the kit.
So you're not trying to pull 80 gigs of data over a slow home VPN connection.
Exactly. That alone saves hours. And that leads to the second point, the speed. Most full rebuilds are done in under 30 minutes. Some repairs are under 15.
Under 30 minutes for a full rebuild. OS, apps, drivers, profiles, everything.
Everything. That kind of speed slashes downtime by over 80%. But crucially, these systems are built on a zero-trust architecture. This gets back to your security question.
Okay, zero trust is a huge buzzword. For the listener, what does that mean specifically in this context? How does it help?
It's actually pretty simple. It means we don't trust the device, even if it was on our network a minute ago. Before the system is allowed to come back online, the zero trust architecture forces it to pass security, compliance, and health checks.
So it's like a bouncer at the door.
Exactly. It checks for things like SOC2 or high pay compliance before the OS is fully restored. If the device fails the check, the recovery stops until it's fixed with a certified clean image. That validation is what guarantees a clean start.
And that speed and security, it connects to all the different people involved. The COSO reduces the risk of fines. The IT manager gets their week back from doing manual rebuild.
It completely changes the role of IT from constantly fighting fires to actually focusing on strategy.
So let's bring this all back to the worst case scenario. The one that explains that $275 billion number, full-blown ransomware recovery. The sources explain that a solution like Swimage Rapid Recovery can do a full system rebuild and get the data back in minutes while simultaneously eliminating the ransomware.
Right, it's not a cleanup job that might leave something behind. It's a total system refresh. It vaporizes the threat by replacing the infected system with a known good one.
And the technology behind that is something called point-in-time recovery.
Exactly. And an automated rollback capability, sometimes called Data Protect Rollback.
Can you give us an analogy for point-in-time recovery? How does that work?
Think of it like a perfect, secure snapshot of your device, taken every few minutes, but stored completely separate from the operating system. If ransomware hits you at 10:00,
You just go back to the 9:55 a.m. snapshot.
precisely, the system rolls the endpoint back to that clean state. Everything before the attack is there, guaranteed clean. The user gets the device back exactly how they left it, just moments before the incident.
That is the difference between losing a day's work and losing nothing. But what about the data itself? If you're backing up user data in this process, how do you make sure it's secure? Or that the profile isn't tainted?
That's the critical point. The architecture has to be secure by design. The goal is a seamless transition with zero data loss.
Okay.
The security protocols make sure that user data, profiles, settings, all of it is securely backed up and restored. And crucially, the data never leaves the device. It's moved to a secure, isolated partition, the system is rebuilt, and then the data is moved back.
And that isolation, I'm guessing that's key for audits and compliance.
Absolutely. You have full audit logs that maintain a chain of trust. It proves where the data was and shows the infected system was completely wiped and replaced with a verified clean one. This is a must-have for any regulated industry.
Which is why we see this level of automated recovery being demanded in places like healthcare for HOPA or finance with its strict audit rules.
Or government agencies that
Wow.
need that federal-grade automation. The speed isn't a nice-to-have anymore. It's a regulatory shield.
So we've gone from this massive, almost incomprehensible $275 billion threat to the practical reality of near-instant recovery. And the key takeaway seems to be that the line between survival and closure comes down to automation and having a tested plan. Recovery in minutes, not days or weeks.
And for you, the listener, the vital thing to grasp is that modern cyber resilience has shifted. Prevention is still important, of course, but true resilience now comes from maximizing the speed of your recovery.
Neutralizing the impact almost instantly.
Right. And if we connect this back to the big picture, remember that CISOs are warning that AI is going to make these attacks even more sophisticated and automated. The threats are only getting faster and smarter.
Which leaves us with a final and I think pretty provocative thought.
It does. If the attack itself is being automated, becoming faster and smarter, doesn't the recovery process have to achieve that same level of speed and zero-touch automation just for a business to stay viable?
So under 30-minute zero-touch recovery isn't the goal anymore.
I don't think so. It might just be the new minimum requirement for survival in the next decade of cyber threats. It might be the new floor.